The Linga Purana. Om Shakti Hrim, Om Namah Shiva, Om Namo Narayana. We first prayed to Brahma, the creator, Vishnu to preserver, and Shiva to the destroyer. We also prayed to the sages Nara and Narayana, and Saraswati, the goddess of living. Our prayers are due to the sage Vyasadhyasa. It is only after these prayers that we can begin to read the sacred text. A tirtha is a place of pilgrimage. The sage Narada visited several such tirthas and eventually arrived at the forest known as Naimisharanya. At that time, many other sages had assembled in the Naimisharanya. They greeted Narada warmly and offered him their respects. While all this was going on, who should arrive there but the Sutta Vamarshana? The sage greeted Vamarshana and said, "You have studied the Puranas under Vyasadhyasa himself. Please recite for us the Puranas that describe the glory of Shiva's Linga image." It is our great good fortune that the sage Narada is also here. He has just returned after worshipping many lingas at many tirthas. What better occasion can there be? Vamarshana agreed. He began with the account of the creation. 1,000 kalpas are 1 year for Brahma, and 8,000 such years are 1 yuga for Brahma. 1,000 of Brahma's yuga are equivalent to 1 of Vishnu's days. 9,000 of Vishnu's days are equivalent to merely 1 day for Shiva. At the end of the Brahma's days, the entire universe and all the beings in it are destroyed. Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva are not, however, destroyed. There is a darkness and water everywhere, and Vishnu sleeps on this water. Since Nara means water and Ayana means resting place, Vishnu is also known as Narayana. When the day dawns, Brahma begins creation afresh. Brahma first created 3 sons through his mental powers. Their names were Sanandana, Sanaka and Sanatana. These sons became sage and performed intense meditation. Brahma also created another 9 sons through his mental powers. Their names were Marichi, Bhrigu, Angira, Puvasya, Puvaha, Kratu, Daksha, Atri and Vasishtha. To ensure that creation progressed further, Brahma next divided his body in 2 halves. The male half was known as Svayambhu Manu, and the female half was known as Shatarupa. These 2 married and had 2 sons and 2 daughters. The sons were Uttanapada and Priyavrata, and the daughters were Akuti and Prasuti. Daksha married Prasuti and they had 24 daughters, sometimes as 50 and sometimes as 60. One of Daksha's daughters was named Sati, and she was married to Shiva. When Sati died, she was reborn as Parvati, the daughter of the Himalayas. She was married again to Shiva as Parvati. In fact, before starting to create, Brahma told Shiva, "Please help me out by creating some beings. I cannot cope on my own." Shiva gladly agreed and started to create beings who were just like him in appearance. This came to be known as Rudras. "What are you doing?" exclaimed Brahma. "Don't create immortal beings who are like yourself. Create beings who are mortal." "That I flatly refuse to do," replied Shiva. "Then please desist from creating," requested Brahma. "I shall take care of creation myself." Shiva complied, but the Rudras whom he had already created remained. The sage told Vamarshana, "Please tell us about yoga." Vamarshana complied. Shiva is also known as Pashupati. The technique of yoga that Shiva taught is known as Pashupata Yoga. To teach this yoga, Shiva has an incarnation avatar in every Kali Yuga. In the present Kalpa, There have been 28 Kali Yugas and there have accordingly been 28 incarnations of Shiva, all known as Yogeshwaras. Their names are as follows: Shweta, Sutara, Madana, Sukhotra, Kanchana, Vakakshi, Jayadishva, Dadhivahana, Rishabha, Muni, Ugra, Atri, Vali, Gautama, Vedashisha, Gakarna, Gukhavasi, Shikha, Dabhrit, Jatamali, Atahasa, Daruka, Wangali, Mahakaya, Shuli, Mundishvara, Sahishnu, Samasharma, Jagadguru. Every one of these Yogeshwaras had 4 disciples each. In fact, it is also Shiva whose incarnation is born as Vedavyasa in every Dvapara Yuga. Since there have been 28 Dvapara Yuga, there have also been 28 Vedavyasas up to now. These names are as follows: Kratu, Satya, Bhargava, Angira, Mrityu, Shatakrata, Vasishka, Sarasvata, Tridhama, Trivrita, Narayana, Tarakshu, Aruni, Deva, Kritanjaya, Ritanjaya, Bharadvaja, Gautama, Vachashrava, Sushmaini, Trinavindu, Raksha, Shakti, Bhimana, Shatateja, Parashara, Jatukarna, and Krishna Dvayapana. Yoga has 8 components. These are known as Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. Yama is preparatory to meditation. It has to be backed up by the practice of non-violence. Niyama means certain rules that have to be followed. These include trustfulness, celibacy, and lack of jealousy. The rules also encompass cleanliness, the donation of alms, and fasting at appointed times. Pranayama signifies the control of the breeze of life. This must always be attempted in proper asana. Pratyahara implies the withdrawal of the mind from addiction to sensual and material pursuit. An image has to be decided on for the purpose of meditation. When this image is fixed in one mind, that is known as dharana, and the actual process of meditation is called dhyana. Samadhi is final stage of meditation, when the union between the Paramatman and the Atman is realized. Yoga must always be practiced in the appropriate place. One must not be close to fire, nor must the place chosen be a cremation ground or a location frequented by wild beasts. There must not be any noise or insects that are likely to distract one's attention. For example, a cave is a very good place to practice yoga in. Don't imagine for a moment that yoga is easy. There are numerous distractions and disturbances that make one deviate from the right path. One has to fight laziness and sloth. As one progresses, there are illusions that one hallucinates from. Demons are seen. There are powers that one attains, and this also causes distractions. But if one manages to conquer these, true bliss can be attained. The sage said, "We know that a linga is a Shiva's image. But why is Shiva worshipped in the form of a linga?" Well, Maharshana recounted the following story. Many years ago, at the end of a destruction, there was water everywhere in the universe, and the universe was shrouded in darkness. Vishnu slept on the water in his form of Narayana. Brahma discovered Vishnu sleeping thus and woke him up. Failing to recognize Vishnu, he asked, "Who are you and what are you doing here?" Vishnu woke up and noticed Brahma standing there. He smiled and said, "How are you, Brahma? Is everything well with my son?" "How dare you call me your son?" demanded Brahma. "I am Brahma, the Lord of everything. I am the creator of the universe. How dare anyone call me his son?" "You seem to have forgotten everything," said Vishnu. "I am Vishnu and you were born from me. That is the reason why I addressed you as my son. Brahma did not accept this and started to fight with Vishnu. While the two were thus grappling, a shining linga suddenly appeared. It was almost as if the linga had emerged to settle Brahma and Vishnu's dispute. The linga rose way up into the sky and it seemed to have no beginning or end. "What on earth is a pillar of fire doing here?" Vishnu asked Brahma. "Let us investigate it. Why don't you go up and see where it ends? As for me, I shall proceed downwards. Let us meet after a while and compare notes." Brahma agreed to do this. He adopted the form of a swan and flew up. Vishnu adopted the form of a boar and went down. No matter how further down Vishnu went, he could find no end to the linga, nor could Brahma discover its upper extremity. They returned and were amazed to find that neither had been able to find the end of the linga. They realized that they must be in the presence of a power that was greater than their own. They therefore began to pray to the linga, and the sound of the mantra Om echoed all around the linga. Shiva appeared from within the linga in the form of a sage named Vedanama. He told them that it was the linga which was the origin of the universe. It was from the linga that the primordial egg, the origin of the universe, had been created. Shiva also taught Brahma and Vishnu the sacred Gayatri mantra. He told Brahma and Vishnu, "We are all the three part of the same Supreme Brahman. Brahma is the creator, Vishnu is the preserver, and I am the destroyer. Don't fight amongst yourself." Ever since that day, Shiva has been worshipped in the form a linga. But why did Vishnu address Brahma as his son? Asked the sages. Please explain that. The Maharshana told them the following story from the Kalpa known as Padma Kalpa. At the time of destruction that came at the end of the early Kalpa, there was water everywhere in the universe, and Vishnu slept on this water. Vishnu felt slightly bored, so he made a gigantic lotus sprout out of his navel and started to play with it. The stalk of the lotus was made of diamonds, and it shone with a radiance like the sun. While Vishnu was thus playing with the lotus, Brahma appeared. "Who are you?" asked Brahma. "What are you doing here?" "I am Vishnu," replied Vishnu. "I am the Lord of everything." "But who are you and where have you come from?" "I am Brahma," responded Brahma. "I am the Lord of everything in the universe. Every object that will be created in the universe is already present, is embryos form inside my body. If you don't believe me, why don't you enter my stomach and see for yourself?" Vishnu entered Brahma's body through the mouth. He marveled to discover the 14 regions of the universe and the beings who would populate them all inside Brahma's stomach. Vishnu wandered around for 1,000 years but could find no end to the vast expanse of Brahma's stomach. Finally he emerged through the mouth and told Brahma, "I am completely bowled over by what I have seen, but I can also show you wonders. There are many worlds inside my body as well. Enter for yourself and see." Brahma agreed to this and entered Vishnu's body through the mouth. Inside Vishnu's stomach he saw many worlds. He wandered around for 1,000 years, but could not find the extremities of the stomach. Meanwhile Vishnu had closed all the points of exit, and Brahma could find no way of coming out. He eventually came out through the lotus that sprouted out of Vishnu's navel and seated himself on the lotus. Since Padma means lotus and Yoni means place of birth, Brahma therefore came to be known as Padma Yoni. And since Brahma emerged out of Vishnu's body, he came to be regarded as Vishnu's son. While Brahma was thus seated on the lotus, Shiva arrived. Such was the speed of Shiva's arrival that tidal waves were created in the water. The lotus started to tremble and the Brahma was showered with the drops of water. "Stop shaking the lotus so," said Brahma. "You are scaring me." "Who speaks from my navel?" asked Vishnu. "And why do you sound so angry?" "I am Brahma," replied Brahma. "I have every right to be angry. Don't you remember? You had entered my body and had marveled at the worlds I had shown you there. You had then asked me to enter your body. But once I had done that, you had closed all the points of entry so that I had not been able to get out. I had to emerge through the lotus and now seated on it. Apart from your early transgression, you have now started to shake the lotus. Why should I not be angry?" "Please pardon me," replied Vishnu. "I had no desire to offend you by closing all the points of exit. I merely wished to play with you for a while. Please forgive me, and as a token of your friendship, please grant me the boon that you will henceforth be known as my son. But as for the lotus, I have no part in shaking it. Can't you see that Shiva is approaching? This tidal race must have been caused by his arrival. Let us pray to him and pacify him." "Who is Shiva?" asked Brahma. "I am Brahma, the Lord of everything. I refuse to pray to any upstart who approaches." Vishnu quieted Brahma down and persuaded him that the two of them ought to pray to Shiva. Shiva was pleased at this praise and offered the grand Brahma and Vishnu boons. Vishnu wished the boon that he might always be devoted to Shiva. Brahma desired the boon that Shiva might be born as his son. Subsequently, when Brahma began his task of creation, he was not happy with the beings he initially created. From this sorrow were born the 11 Rudras, manifestation of Shiva. They cried as soon as they were born, since the word Rudra means to cry. They acquired the name of Rudras. It was thus that Shiva was born as Brahma's son. Deva means goat and Daru means tree. A Devadaru is a special sort of tree that is loved by the gods. Many years ago there used to be a forest that was full of Devadaru trees. In this Devadaru forest there lived many sages and their wives. The sages were devoted to Shiva and performed very difficult tapasya meditation so as to please him. Shiva was pleased at this praise, but he decided to test the sages. He therefore adopted a very ugly appearance and came to the Devadaru forest. He wore no clothes, his complexion was completely dark and his eyes were terrifying. The wives of the sages began to follow Shiva around, but the sages were disgusted that their wives should follow such an ugly and deformed creature. They used many harsh words to insult Shiva, and Shiva promptly disappeared. The sages then went and reported what had happened to Brahma. "You stupid idiots," exclaimed Brahma. "Don't you realize that you have done? That ugly creature was Shiva himself. He was merely trying to test you and you have failed in the test. He was your guest and you have treated him badly. A guest is a guest regardless of whether he is handsome or ugly. He must be treated with the utmost respect and consideration. You have failed in this miserably. Don't you know the story of the sage Sudarshana? There used to be a sage named Sudarshana. He took great pains to instruct his wife that a guest must always be treated well and must never be refused. In fact, a guest is like Shiva himself. To refuse a guest is tantamount to refusing and insulting Shiva. On one particular occasion, the god of righteousness, Yamaraja, decided to test Sudarshana and his wife. He adopted the disguise of Brahmana and came to visit Sudarshana. Sudarshana was away at the time, but his wife treated the guests really well. Dharma Yamaraja then blessed Sudarshana and his wife that they would surely go to heaven. The sages regretted that they had done and looked for a way so that they might please Shiva. They sought Brahma's advice and Brahma told them the story of Shveta. There was a sage named Shveta who was devoted to Shiva. He prayed to Shiva throughout his life. Eventually it was time for Shveta to die and Yama, the god of death, came to claim Shveta. Shveta was not at all disturbed at the sight of Yama. He thought that death would not be able to do him any harm if he prayed to Shiva. He went about making preparation for these prayers. Come, come, said Yama, it is this time to pray to Shiva. Your time on earth is over and you are under my powers now. What is the point of praying to Shiva now? Yama then tied up Shveta and prepared to take the sage to his abode. But Shiva, accompanied by Nandi, Parvati and several of his accompanants, arrived. At the mere sight of Shiva, Yama fell unconsciousness and died. The gods marveled at this and showered down flowers from the sky. Shveta was saved in this fashion. Brahma told the sages, now you know what can be gained by praying to Shiva. That is what you should do. That is what the sage did. After they had prayed faithfully for an entire year, Shiva appeared before them. He was smeared with ashes and his visage was terrible. He wandered around the Devadaru forest, but the sages had learned their lesson. They were not repelled at Shiva's ugly appearance. They and their wives welcomed Shiva with flowers and incense. Shiva was pleased. He gave the sages plenty of good advice. Amongst other things, he taught the sages the wonderful properties of bhasma, ashes. There was a sage named Dadicca. Dadicca had a friend named Kshupa. Kshupa was a king. Since Kshupa was a king, he belonged to the Kshatriya class. Dadicca was a Brahmana. The two friends once began to argue about the superiority of Brahmanas vis-a-vis Kshatriyas. Kshupa maintained that Kshatriyas were superior, while Dadicca held the opposite view. Indra has a wonderful weapon named Vajra. Once upon a time, the demons became very powerful and threatened to defeat the gods. The gods sought Kshupa's help and Indra gave Kshupa the Vajra to fight with. When the Dadicca and Kshupa had argued for a while, they came to blows. Dadicca struck Kshupa a blow on the head with his fist. In retaliation, Kshupa struck Dadicca with the Vajra and sliced the sage in two. Dadicca died, but before he died he called upon Shukracharya, the preceptor of the demons, to come to his aid. Shukracharya knows the art of Mrita Sanjivani, that it is technique of bringing dead people back to the life. Shukracharya arrived and resurrected Dadicca. Shukracharya told Dadicca, why don't you pray to Shiva? If you can please Shiva by his grace, you will become immortal. Where do you think I learned the art of Mrita Sanjivani? From the great Shiva. Pray to him. Dadicca began very difficult tapasya, so that he might please Shiva. When Shiva was pleased, Dadicca obtained 3 boons from him. The first boon made Dadicca prosperous. The second boon made his bones as hard as the Vajra itself. And the third boon was that Dadicca could never be killed. Thus honored, Dadicca went to visit Kshupa and gave Kshupa a mighty kick on his head. Kshupa naturally picked up the Vajra and hurled it at Dadicca. The Vajra struck the Diksha a resounding wake on his chest. But such was the power of Shiva's boon that the Vajra did the sage no harm. Shupa was amazed to see this. He resolved that he would pray to Vishnu to obtain still greater powers. Finally Vishnu appeared before Shupa and said, "I am pleased with your prayers. What boon do you desire?" "Please grant me the boon that I may be able to defeat the Diksha," replied Shupa. "The Diksha has been fortified by Shiva's boons," said Vishnu. "I therefore fear that what you ask is quite impossible. Nevertheless I will try." Vishnu adopted the form of a Brahmana and went to the Diksha hermitage. "Welcome, great Vishnu," said the Diksha, "but why are you in the disguise of Brahmana? Did you think that I would not be able to see through your disguise? Or did you think that I would not refuse what a Brahmana asked for? Anyway, please give up this pretense. Adopt your own form and tell me what you want." Vishnu adopted his own form and said, "I am going to bring King Shupa to your hermitage. All you have to do is to tell Shupa that you are scared." Vishnu brought Shupa to the Diksha hermitage. But instead of saying what Vishnu had asked him to utter, the Diksha said, "I am a devotee of Shiva. How can I be scared of anything in the universe?" These words angered Vishnu. Vishnu has a divine weapon known as the Sudarshana Chakra. He flung this at the Diksha, but the Diksha's powers were such that Chakra merely struck him on the chest and fell harmlessly to the ground. Oh dear, exclaimed the Diksha. "Whatever has happened to the great Vishnu's Chakra? Perhaps Vishnu would be better advised to use some other divine weapon, like the Brahmastra perhaps." Vishnu hurled a Brahmastra at the Diksha, but nothing happened to the sage. Vishnu used several other divine weapons, but all in vain. The other gods arrived to help Vishnu in his fight with the Diksha. But the numerous weapons that the gods used on the Diksha were all rendered harmless by the sage. The Diksha then picked up a handful of straw and flung this at the gods. As if magically, each of the straws became a flaming trident and threatened to burn up all the gods. The gods fled in desperation. As for Vishnu, he created several beings who were just like him in appearance. But the Diksha burned all of this up. Vishnu next adopted a gigantic and wonderful form. This form was known as Vishvarupa. The entire universe and all the beings in it could be seen in this Vishvarupa. But the Diksha only laughed. "Who are you trying to impress?" he asked. "Look at me. You will find the entire universe and all beings in it inside my body as well. I too can play with illusions. Give up this foolery. If you really wish to fight, let us do so by all means." At this stage, Brahma decided to intervene. He advised Vishnu to pray to the sage instead of fighting with him. Vishnu did this and was forgiven by the Diksha. As for Shupa, he acknowledged the superiority of Brahmanas and begged the Diksha's forgiveness. The place where these wonderful things happened, it is a tirtha named Sthaneshwara. There was a sage named Shivada. He performed very difficult tapasya so that he might have a son. After many years had passed, Indra appeared before Shivada and told him, "I am pleased with your meditation. Ask for the boon that you desire. Please grant me the boon that I may have a son who is not normally born and who will be immortal," answered Shivada. "That is impossible," said Indra. "It is beyond my powers to grant you such a boon. I can at best give you a mortal son." "An immortal son? I fear that not Even Brahma can grant you such a boon. The only person who may be able to grant you such a boon is Shiva. Why don't you try to please him? Shivada started to pray to Shiva. For 1,000 years of the gods he prayed ceaselessly. He was completely immobile, so that the termites built a nest on his body. His body could no longer be seen. The termites ate up all Shivada's flesh and drank up all his blood. But Shivada continued to pray. When only bones were left in Shivada's body, Shiva appeared before him. Enough of this meditation, said Shiva. I know what you desire, and I will grant you the son you want. I myself will be born as your son and be known as Nandi. Having said this, Shiva vanished, but not before he had revived Shivada with his touch. Shivada now started a yajna, sacrifice, so that the son might be born. And Nandi emerged from the fire that had been lit on the occasion of the sacrifice. Nandi had 3 eyes and 4 arms. He held a trident and a mace in 2 of his hands, and his body was clad in armor made out of diamonds. The Gandharvas, singers of heaven, sang songs to celebrate the occasion. The Apsaras, dancers of heaven, danced. The gods showered down flowers from above. The word Ananda meant joy. Since the boy's birth brought everyone joy, he was named Nandi. But as soon as Nandi was taken home by Shivada, Nandi's divine appearance vanished and he assumed the form of an ordinary human child. Moreover, he forgot all about his divine origin. Shivada was greatly disappointed at this happening, but there was nothing that could be done. He devoted himself to his son's education. By the time Nandi was 7 years old, he had become well versed in the Vedas and other Shastras, sacred texts. One day the 2 gods, Mitra and Varuna, came to visit Shivada. They took one look at Nandi and said, "Strange indeed are the ways of the world. Nandi bears all the auspicious signs on his body, and yet he is not going to live for long. He is going to die before he is 8 years old." Shivada was mortified to hear this and started to weep. Nandi could not bear to see his father weep thus and started to pray to Shiva. Shiva appeared and said, "What is all this talk of your dying, stuff and nonsense? You are going to be immortal and you will always be by my side." Shiva took off the necklace that he was wearing and hung it around Nandi's neck. Immediately Nandi assumed a divine form with 10 arms and 3 ears. Nandi was adopted as a son by Parvati. Shiva's companions are known as the Ganas, and their leaders are known as Ganeshwaras or Ganapatis. It was resolved that Nandi should be made a Ganapati. This was formally done at an august ceremony. The gods and the sages all came to attend this ceremony. In Satya Yuga, people were always happy. There were no inferiors or superiors. All individuals were equal. The climate was neither hot nor cold. Hatred and jealousy were unknown. Hunger and thirst were not felt. The earth yielded an abundant supply of juice and mankind lived happily on this. There was no need to build house. People lived on the shores of the oceans and in the mountains. There was no concept of sin and store of merit, no need of heaven or hell. People were naturally righteous. In Treta Yuga things changed somewhat. Clouds formed in the sky and it started to rain heavily. The earth no longer yielded a plentiful supply of juice. But because it rained so much, trees began to grow and people lived on the sap of these trees. But individuals slowly turned evil and started to fight over the possession of these trees. The trees no longer provided sap, but they did provide fruits that human could live on. They used the barks of the tree for clothing. But when people continued to fight over the possession of the tree started to wither away and disappear. Heat and cold became manifest. Houses now had to be built so that one might protect oneself from the heat and the cold. Early there had been no need to build houses. When all the trees completely disappeared, people learned to practice agriculture so that they might live. The first practice of agriculture and the animal husbandry goes back to Treta Yuga, but irrigation was not needed. The land irrigated itself. Artificial irrigation became required much later, when people grew even more evil. Mankind really started to suffer from the time of Dwapara Yuga. Most evil traits like hatred, jealousy, quarrels and fraudulence can be traced back to the time. Famine and drought were first felt on earth in Dwapara Yuga. Kali Yuga is the worst period of all. This is a time when holy men are not revered. No one pays any attention to the Shastras and it is evil that prevails. People are habitually liars. The Shudras are the last of the four classes. As such, their duties are to serve the other three classes of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas and Vaishya. But in Kali Yuga, the Shudras lord over everything. Even the kings are Shudras and oppress the Brahmanas. Kings are chiefs and chiefs become kings. Kali Yuga is such an evil period that people will start to lend money so as to earn interest. The evil has its effects in terms of reducing the productivity of the land. Life expectancy is reduced to only 16 years. The only redeeming feature of Kali Yuga is the fact that a minor righteous deed in Kali Yuga brings undying punya. But Kali Yuga will not last forever. When its duration is over, Praniti or Kalki will be born so as to re-establish righteousness on earth. For 20 years he will travel around the world, killing the evil and protecting the good. He will destroy the Shudra kings and bring back the religion prescribed by the Vedas. The universe is divided in 14 regions, Loka. 7 of these form the upper region and 7 others constitute the nether region. The 7 lokas of the upper region are named Bhurloka as Bhuvarloka, Svargaloka, Heaven, Maharloka, Jnanaloka, Kapaloka and Satyaloka. The 7 regions of the underworld are Mahatala, Rasatala, Talatala, Mahatala, Sutala, Atala, Patala, Vitala. That apart there are many hells, Naraka, in the universe. The sinners are punished in this hells. The earth has many oceans and mountains. The land mass is divided in 7 regions, named Jambudvipa, Plakshadvipa, Shaumalidvipa, Kushadvipa, Kraunchadvipa, Shakadvipa and Pushkaradvipa. The 7 major oceans Samudra that surround these land masses are Lavana, Ikshu, Sura, Krita, Dabhi and Java. You will remember that Swayambhuva Manu had 2 sons, Priyavrata and Uttanapada. Priyavrata had 10 sons. Their names were Agnidra, Agnivahu, Medha, Medhatipsi, Vapushmana, Jyotishmana, Dyutimana, Havya, Savana and Putra. After Priyavrata died, the earth was divided up in 7 regions, and 7 sons inherited a region each. Agnidra, Resove Jambudvipa, Medhatithi, Pwakshadvipa, Vapushmana, Shaumali Dvipa, Jyotishmana, Kushadvipa, Dyutimana, Kraunchadvipa, Havya, Shakadvipa, and Savana, Pushkaradvipa. The Linga Purana describes subsequent subdivisions of these dvipas. Agnidra, the ruler of Jambudvipa, was devoted to Shiva. He had 9 sons, and each of these sons was also devoted to Shiva. These sons were named Nabhi, Kimpurusha, Hari, Evavrita, Ramya, Hiranmanu, Kuru, Kadrashva, and Ketumava. After Agnidra, Jambudvipa was divided into 9 regions, Varshas, and ruled over by one of these sons. Nabhi ruled over Hemavarsha, Kimpurusha over Hemakutavarsha, Hari over Naishadavarsha, Evavrita over Meruvarsha, Ramya over Nilachavarsha, Hiranmana over Shvetavarsha, Kuru over Shringaravarsha, Kadravarsha over Malyamavarsha, and Ketuma over Ganhanmadana Varsha. To return to the account of the Linga Purana, Nabhi's wife was called Meru. Nabhi and Meru had a son named Rishabha, and Rishabha's son was Bharata. It was after Bharata that the region that Nabhi ruled over came to be known as Bharatavarsha. Bharatavarsha is bounded by the Himalaya mountains to the north and by the ocean to the south. Right in the center of Jambudvipa is the Mount Shumera or Meru. On all sides of Shumeru are many other peaks. Mount Shumeru is so high that it touches the solar circle. It is encrusted with snow and is full of gold and jewels. Many other gods who live on Mount Shumeru. Amaravati is the place there where Indra lives, is on the eastern slopes of Shumeru. This city is full of beautiful palaces, bejeweled gates and golden pillars. There are crystal steps that lead down to limpid pools of clear water. The pools abound with lotuses of every hue that can be imagined. In another corner of Shumeru is the fire god Agni's abode. This city is known as Tejasvini. Yama's residence is named Vaivasvati and lies towards the south. There are many other cities designed to be the residence of the gods. There are special landing strips for the vimanas of the gods. Most remarkable of all is Brahma's residence, located right in the center of Shumeru. A river named Jambu flows past the region. It is from these rivers that Jambudvipa acquires its name. As mentioned before, there are mountain ranges on all sides of Shumeru. The Nilachal mountains are to the north, the Shveta mountains further north, and the Shringi mountains still beyond. To the east of Shumeru lies the mountain Jatara and Devakuta. The Nishatha mountains are to the south. The Hemakuta mountains further south, and the Himalaya mountains still further away towards the south. The mountains Malyavana and Ganhamadana are to the west of Shumeru. There are 4 beautiful lakes Saravara around Shumeru. Aronodaya is to the east, Manasa to the south, Sitoda to the west, and Mahabhadra to the north. To the east of Bharatavarsha lives the Kiratas, hunters, and to the west lives the Yavanas, who eat the meat. Bharatavarsha proper is populated by Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. The hells are located below the underworld. There are 28 of these. Their sinners are made to suffer for their evil deeds. Om Namah Shivaya. Hare Krishna, Radhe